Oh my goodness, I am so excited to be here with all of you, and I hope that we're gonna meet once a month, right? So that we can talk about nature play and children in our communities. I really am in awe of all the work that you are all doing. Before we get started, I'm gonna need your help. We're gonna have some conversations and some sharing while I speak today. And so I have Post-its. Everyone needs a few Post-its and everyone needs a marker. So maybe, do you want to hold hand up Post-its? And what are you? Thank you. And then I'll figure out how to share this presentation.
Well, yeah. Okay.
All right, now that we have our sharing and learning materials, we can go ahead and get started. So I want you to think about one of your best play experiences from childhood. Think about what that could be. I have a picture here of my two kids with their friend climbing a tree. I also climbed in a tree, but I didn't put that picture. If you're one of those people that panics when you think of, I have to say the best thing, think of a few things. That's okay too. Don't feel stressed out about this. Write a few key phrases down on one of your sticky notes about that. While you're writing, I'll share one of mine. So in 5th grade, my mom was a single working mom, also going to school to get a college education. And so I had to ride the bus home with my friends to go to my friend's house after school so that I wouldn't come home to an empty house after school. And my friend kind of lived on the mountainside of Provo, and she was lucky enough to have some really big trees in her yard. And so we just started building a tree house as 5th graders by ourselves. We would get scraps of wood from the garage and the neighbors and some nails and hammers. That's really all we had. It was like nails, hammers, wood, and a saw. And first we had to hammer a few 2x4s up the tree so that we had a little makeshift ladder to climb. And then once we were up there, we started building a platform and then created a pulley system so that we could get materials up and down. And this was truly an incredible place for us to hang out and play and imagine and work. We were working with each other as friends. There were about 5 of us. And that's all I really remember about my time after school, that whole school year, was building this tree house. So as you've now thought about one or maybe more of your best childhood memories, I'm gonna have you put that in context. So when we're talking about risky play, Brusoni said that risky play is defined as thrilling and exciting play that can include physical injury. And it doesn't have to include physical injury, but there's this element of like, there might be injury at some point if I make the wrong step or hammer in the wrong way, right? And so if I'm sitting down playing a game of Uno, it doesn't count as risky play as far as what we're talking about today. Although there are emotional and social risks, we could get into that. We could do a whole other presentation on that. And so there's some research that's been done in observing children, and there's these 6 elements of risky play that really define what it means to be risky play. So we have height, speed, dangerous elements like water and fire, dangerous tools, rough and tumble, and disappearing or getting lost. So if I'm thinking about my best childhood memory I shared with you about building a tree house, the height was definitely one of those. There we had dangerous tools because we're using hot saws and hammers and nails. And the disappearing, getting lost was probably the best part of it because we felt totally hidden from the world from there. So now you can see that on these pillars, I put these 6 elements of risky play. So I want you to grab your Post-it note, and you might need several because yours might fit into more than one element like mine did. So you might have to repeat your memory on a few sticky notes. But I want you, after you're ready with those, to jump up and actually stick them on the pillars in where they go with these 6 elements. So it looks like we're almost done. You're still leaving yourself on the screen. But let's look around us and see. We have a lot of childhood memories. Now, maybe our data is skewed because we're all interested in nature play. Maybe our data is skewed with this group, but I would venture to say that most people, if they're thinking about a really thrilling childhood memory, that it's going to include one of these things. And so it looks like we've got a lot of disappearing and getting lost. We have a lot of dangerous elements. Not as much speed, but a little bit, not as much dangerous tools. Some rough and tumble play, height plays a part in that too. And so we're going to talk about, we'll maybe talk about a few of these memories a little bit later. But pretty cool that, the research in observing children around what constitutes risky play is similar to what we've all experienced too in our own childhoods. And so there are so many benefits to risky play. This isn't all of them. I just picked and chose a couple, and as I was rehearsing my presentation this morning, I realized I even have too many, so I'm gonna have to skip a couple. But what I'm really interested in is, sometimes I feel like we read news articles or read summaries and it like lists all these things like, oh, all of these are benefits of risky play. But what I like to do is like dig in and be like, well, what was the study about? What ages of children? What were they doing? So that's what I want to go through with some of these with you today as we talked about some benefits. And so the first benefit I've listed is physical activity. I'm going to include a lot of photos from the nature play school that I started, Wonderbloom. This is an area in our school that we call Imagineering, and it's where we give them a lot of big loose parts and let them take charge of what they're going to do with them. So on this day, they turn the tires into a tunnel, and so there's some disappearing, getting lost element in there. In this study about physical activity with risky play, it was with 5 to 7-year-olds. They introduced 13 weeks of loose parts, and they noticed that there was a marked increase in physical activity with these children. And what I think is even more remarkable is that 2 years later, they followed up on these children and they still had that increase in physical activity. And I think that's due to this extra part they included, which was a bit of parent education about risky play. And that's what we're doing here too. We're learning about why it's important. And as adults learn about why it's important, we now can start incorporating that with the children that we work with.